The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, also known as the USSR or the Soviet Union, reigned over one-sixth of the world for 7 decades, starting in 1922 until its collapse in 1991, making it the first and largest communist union in history, spanning over all of Russia and much of Eastern Europe. Today, we will be focusing on Prague, the capital of the Czech Republic, formerly known as Czechoslovakia when it was under USSR reign. This city was an important piece for the collapse of the USSR. During its reigning years, Westerners could not live in the territory. So today, we are speaking to my uncle Craig Bertero, who moved to Prague right after the fall of the US. This is my uncle Craig Bertero. So Craig, how did you end up living in Prague?
So I'm 56 years old and I graduated from college in 1990. And I graduated from high school in 86 and from Oakland in Oakland. And I went to Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Although she was my professor, one of the professors there at Georgetown was a woman named Madeleine Albright, who's also our Secretary of State, and she's Czech. And she was friends with the president of Czechoslovakia, a guy named Václav Havel.
Václav Havel was the last president of Czechoslovakia until its dissolution in 1992. Then he was democratically elected the first president of the Czech Republic in 1993.
He came to campus in November of '89, so my senior year, and she spoke, and I went to a reception, and they talked about getting some kids to go over there. And he spoke to Congress as well as a really good speech online. But I ended up applying and I got a job with the Czech government. So I moved to Prague in August of '90 after I graduated from Georgetown.
And how many years were you there for?
I lived in the Czech Republic because it split while I was there from Slovakia. And Czechoslovakia turned into Czech and the Slovak Republic. I was there for 3 years. And then I came back and went to business school at Berkeley.
So what changes did you see from the start when you got there in 92 to when you...
From '90, yeah.
90.
So we obviously had the communist system fell in Hungary, then it rolled up, and they took down the Berlin Wall. It was all...
The fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 that divided Western and Eastern Germany symbolized a loss of control and authority for the USSR that ultimately led to its collapse in 1989.
Going on. And you had the people that were the communists who were enforcing things, and you had the people who were sort of the victims. And so you saw a lot of changes because a lot of their social programs broke down. And, so you'd see, some people were bad because they part of the secret police.
The USSR had several secret police agencies, the most notable one being the KGB that ruled over all of the USSR. And in Czechoslovakia, it was the STB. These agencies were meant to maintain the communist regime and repress dissent, so the dissolution of them in 1991 created a fairer and more open government.
Prague's also a very busy town, so a lot of tourists came to visit, so I lived right downtown. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting battle between different groups of people who were oppressed, wanted to get justice, and also wanted to have their society be normal. And so you have different people who were responsible for the communist stuff. Also, you had the currency changes, all their companies changed. I worked for a Czech bank for a while, and they had all the copy machines in one room because they wanted to keep control of all the copies being made during communism because they didn't want people starting riots or anything. So it changed a lot. The food was very bad. They had shortages. And when I left, there was lots of stuff, lots of stuff to eat and do, and it changed very quickly. The foreigners, and there were a decent amount of foreigners living there also.
And did that bother any of the Czech people? Was there any tension?
I don't think so. I think they like the money. It's tough on housing because they got kicked out of their housing and they couldn't live where they wanted to live, where it was sort of easier because they needed to build some housing. The one interesting story is a lot of the Westerners, when McDonald's came, a lot of the Westerners didn't like the fact McDonald's was coming because they think it was a dirty restaurant. And the Czechs were like, hey, it's like a fast food restaurant. The Czechs were like, hey, McDonald's is fast. The bathrooms are always clean. Give us a break. Like, we like it. So there was definitely some battles over Western stuff a little bit here and there, but by and large, it wasn't too crazy. They were sort of...
You see more elimination of communism or promotion of the new democracy?
You saw both. You see systems breaking down at the same time you saw new systems coming up and new people getting elected. It was kind of funny because you had a lot of people who didn't have bosses. So when I first got there in 90, like on the subway, the guys running the subway would play any music they wanted. So they'd be playing like heavy metal in the subway because there was no rules. So,
Yeah.
before you could build up new rules, they had to take out all the old rules. So no one had to do what they wanted, had to do. So it was interesting. And again, a lot of the people who were running the old organizations were communists. So do you get rid of them? And then no one knows how to run the business. So it definitely took a little time. But
The fall of the USSR was a pivotal event for all the countries under its reign. It is essentially what split Czechoslovakia and created the Czech Republic. The disbandment of communism brought forth many opportunities for the Czech Republic to pursue its own economic and political paths. However, it also meant adapting to new challenges as a country and adjusting to a democratic governance. Democracy brought on a better government and human rights. Now that the Czech Republic is no longer under USSR reign, it continues to be a thriving country.